Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and just a quick little PSA before we get into today's video. Arena is having an absolute nightmare of a time right now. All of the events are down at the time of this recording. I tried to record another draft and that got deleted halfway through the draft. Player drafts have been down for over 30 hours, even when Arena isn't doing stuff like this. So the PSA is if you're wanting to play Arena right now at the time of this video's upload, there's probably still some issues going on at the very least with how long player drafts have been down. Player drafts are probably not available, but quick drafts might be by the time this video goes live. Maybe the regular events will be back up. So just letting you all know that Arena's having a lot of issues right now if you're playing Arena. And a PSA for the channel for upcoming videos. If you don't know, I do 2 recording sessions a week. I'll record 4 videos one day and 3 the other day. That way I can keep up with daily YouTube uploads while still working my day job. So, with all this stuff going on throughout both of my recording sessions this week, I've currently only managed to record 1 draft, so we will probably have some amount of Twitch replay videos for the daily uploads throughout the week, but I will figure out something to make sure that we still get daily uploads, even though my recording sessions this week have kind of been completely nuked by Magic Arena getting completely nuked. So that's the full PSA. Without further ado, let's just show off today's quick draft. Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'm going to be playing a quick draft of Wilds of Eldraine, and that is going to be the format we're playing for the next few videos because at the time of this recording session, player draft queues, so premier drafts and traditional draft events, have been down for over 24 hours. So a bit of an interesting time on the Magic Arena client, but with that intro out of the way, let's just hop into today's draft. For our pack 1 pick 1, there's a lot of viable options. Red Tooth Vanguard's great if we draft a lot of enchantments or roll tokens that can be produced in this format. Hollow Scavenger's just great stats up front, attacking and blocking as a 5/4 when you have that threat of activation of eating that food to buff it up. The Princess Takes Flight is a very powerful card if you build around it a little bit to make sure that you can sacrifice this saga before Chapter 3 triggers, or return it to your hand before it triggers. I think I'm going to go with the Princess Takes Flight. It's kind of the funnest build around out of all 3 of these, and it is quite powerful. With any stockpiling celebrants to pick up an on-land permanent, you can potentially turn this into multiple removal spells, but even just with a way to bargain it away, it becomes excellent removal. So we'll start with the Princess Takes Flight. For pack 1 pick 2, we have Witchstalker Frenzy for just incredible efficient removal. 4 mana for an instant that deals 5 to a creature is already okay, and this can get a lot cheaper than that depending on the amount of creatures that attacked during the turn you cast it. So really like Witchstalker Frenzy. Other reasonable options are Graceful Takedown if you just really want to be in green. This is a fine green removal spell. Or the Two-Headed Hunter can get a lot of damage in there with the Adventure and just a nice 5/4 body. But we're just going to continue taking efficient removal. For pack 1 pick 3, nothing in white, unfortunately. Nothing great in red. Belligerent to the Ball's solid. There are some good ways to trigger Celebration, have 2 permanents enter the battlefield under your control in 1 turn. But I am much more happy to just take like a Lord Skitter's Butcher here, a very flexible and very powerful black card. Great in any deck that produces a lot of rat tokens because it can give you a rat token if you need it, it can sacrifice one if you have a leftover that you don't need, and it can help get a lot of damage in when you have a really wide board state with that menace ability, so really flexible. I love me a Lord Skitter's Butcher. Next pick the best cards pretty easily, Greta, Sweet Tooth Scourge. She is a great card all by herself, making that food token to sacrifice to her own abilities, but in this format, there's so much more you can do with the foods. You can bargain them away for a variety of cards, and you can also have some other food synergies. So, pretty happy to take Greta. Love the 2 cards out of 1 kind of thing. You get her plus a food. Pretty great. Could just take Feed the Cauldron if I don't want to take a 2-colored card and move into my 4th color on this pick, but I think Greta is worth it for me. Pick 5 now. There's a Ferocious Werefox, which is quite a solid just value creature because of its adventure for going into green-black. Honestly, one of the better cards in this pack. I think the best cards, Obira for blue-black fairies. That's a pretty hard archetype for me to get into personally, so I'm just going to go for the Werefox towards green-black, and that's going to make sure that we have 3 cards towards that archetype at this point, which is a pretty solid spot to be. For pick 6, Hopeless Nightmare is the best black card, although I think Scream Puff works a little bit better in green-black in a vacuum. If we're lucky, we can get a bunch of Hamlet Gluttons to fill out the 5-mana drop slot instead, though, and that's another place where Hopeless Nightmare gets very nice, just leaving you that bargain fodder left behind, so I'm still going to take the Hopeless Nightmare here over the Scream Puff. Now we have a Royal Treatment, which is super good. I'll take that over Scream Puff for sure. Really good way to protect your Greta or your late game Scream Puff or Hamlet Glutton or whatever, because you protect it and give it a permanent buff with that roll token. So like a better version of Snakeskin Veil, and that card's always been solid in draft. Here we don't see any playables on color, so we could speculate on Alchemist for just blue spells nonsense, or Archon's Glory for Great White Bargain Spell. It's going to work excellently with Princess Takes Flight. I guess I'll take the Archon's Glory. Since we do have the Princess Takes Flight, and pick 9, we got our Hollow Scavenger to come back, which was one of my favorite cards out of this pack. So we are really happy to be in green, really happy to potentially be in a food-based deck with Greta and Hollow Scavenger here. Seems excellent. I think this is one of the better cards that was in the pack. And it's still around. Now I'll just take a Crystal Grotto. If we do any random splashing, Fell Horseman has a decent value play. If we don't get enough playables. Season of Growth, there are a few cards that synergize well with this. Royal Treatment is one of them, but we do want a lot of combat tricks or auras for this. The one thing to really note is that roll tokens, depending on how you make them, don't really count. So this one, Ferocious Werefox, because it says create a monster roll attached to target creature you control, this would count because it says right there, targets a creature you control. However, if you're getting a roll token off of like a Red Tooth Genealogist or something, there's a 3-mana 2/3 that when it enters the battlefield, you put a roll token on the board attached to a creature you control. That doesn't count. Just like on Royal Treatment, it says create a royal token attached to that creature. This won't trigger Season of Growth twice. It's just once for the targeting a creature to give hexproof. It doesn't trigger for giving it a roll. So that is important to keep in mind with Season of Growth. Kind of weird. This is a weird instance where all of our current roll production does trigger Season of Growth. But there are a lot of cards that will not. Bestial Bloodline will. Maybe we actually try to do Season of Growth things. What we'll certainly try to do is Gruff Triplets things. This is, I believe, still the highest win rate bomb in the format. It's a completely ridiculous card. 6 mana for 3 3/3s, and they only get bigger from there. If you bargain one away, the other 2 turn into 6/6s. If you trade one off, the other 2 turn into 6/6s, and so on. The card is completely absurd. So take that, Gruff Triplets. Voracious Vermin is fine if we need some bargain fodder. It gives us a rat token for that. Spellscorn Coven also fine, especially with the Crystal Grotto to potentially splash in the Take It Back adventure. Honestly, I don't feel like you need to do any splashing to make the Coven decent. It just is really, really good if you're on blue and black. I'm going to check out our creature curve for a moment here. I think we're very low on cheap creatures. Yeah, we've got 3s, 4s, and 5s. That's what we have for creatures on curve. Nothing this pack really helps that, because we're certainly not playing Territorial Witchstalker. Just not a great creature. Yeah, not in love with the pack for us between Vermin and Coven here. I guess Vermin goes pretty well with Lord Skitter's Butcher. We can have a little bit of a rat sub-theme in here, get a lot of tokens into here as well. Triplets has given us tokens, even if they are bigger. Vermin, Coven, pretty close. Actually, I'll go for the Coven. I do like doing random little splashy adventure things, potentially. Ooh, I guess that was the wrong choice, because then we open up Twisted Sewer Witch, which is incredible with Voracious Vermin, because it's going to put a roll token onto the Vermin and the rat token that it makes, and it's going to make another rat and put a roll on that. Now, it's still really good with Lord Skitter's Butcher, But if we had Butcher and Vermin to go with the Sewer Witch, we'd be really happy. I also do have to consider Monstrosity just because I'm so low on cheap cards. We have no 1 or 2 mana creatures. And Monstrosity is a very, very good one for green-black because it replaces itself with a food token that can be used to bargain or for Greta's ability or anything. I could see this as a pick where we're supposed to take Monstrosity, actually. Weirdly enough. I'm actually going to go Monstrosity here. Had I taken Voracious Vermin, I think this would be a pretty easy Vermin into Witch, but since I didn't, I think filling up the 2-drop slot is important enough with only one card that really synergizes with the Sewer Witch to take the Monstrosity here. And I do like that Werefox that we saw in that pack as well to go with our Season of Growth, but of course, I can't have 50 4-mana cards and no 2-mana cards in the deck. Could take a second Season of Growth, but I can also just take a Curse the Werefox to make sure that the first Season of Growth actually works. This is another one that does count as targeting a creature we control, so a removal spell that works with our Season of Growth looks good to me. This is interesting. I never thought I would actually try to do Season of Growth in this format, but we are finding cards that do technically work. Now we can finally take a Scream Puff with not much competition in the pack. And there's pretty much nothing here, but since we're incredibly low on 1 and 2 mana things to do, we can just take a Candy Trail. Dirtle around with that with our early mana. It's a late Hopeful Vigil. We could have had a decent white bargain deck with that card. Glorian Princess takes flight, but we're pretty clearly on green-black at this point. Alright, none of these are great. Although Not Dead After All does target a creature we control. Is it worth taking that over the Evolving Wilds? For our Season of Growth? Sure, let's do fun things. Let's go all in on the Season of Growth and make sure that that does consistently trigger. Another Horseman's whatever. There's the Celebrant to go with the Princess Takes Flight. That's wild. I'm not going to play double Horseman, so I guess I'll speculate on that. Titanic Growth works with Season of Growth. Yeah, I mean, we're really locked into green because Gruff Triplets here. I don't think the white speculation pans out unless we go green-white, but then we're not playing Greta, we're not playing Butcher, we're not playing Coven. Yeah, I think our path is just kind of set here, unfortunately. Probably not playing any of these, but I'll take a second card that triggers the Season. And there we go, we get the second copy of Season of Growth, so we get to try to do Season of Growth things that could be cute. Could be cute. So pack 3, we're looking for removal spells, and we're looking for cheap creatures. That's what we really want, but I have 2 copies of Season of Growth, and I'm a big doofus, so I'm going to take Ferocious Werefox over the 2-mana creature of Barrow Naughty, because I want to just do as much Season of Growth nonsense as possible for the one draft that I actually draft the copy of Season of Growth. Now we'll take Voracious Vermin. It's the cheapest creature we can play in this pack. Another Lord Skitter's Butcher versus Monstrosity versus Hollow Scavenger versus Feed the Cauldron. We're low on removal, we're also low on 2-drops, so it does feel like Feed the Cauldron or Monstrosity is where it has to be, despite Hollow Scavenger and Lord Skitter's Butcher being incredible 3-drops. We've got 1 Curse of the Werefox and a bunch of combat tricks, and that's our removal here. I think I'm going to take a second Monstrosity, because the other thing is we need a lot of 2-drops just to throw auras onto for Season of Growth in the first place, so like really exceptionally need more 2-mana creatures. I could play Gingerbrute just for more 2-drops, but I really like Stormkeld Vanguard. I'm going to take that main deck artifact enchantment removal, get another 6-drop in here at the top. Not going to take Scarecrow Guide over Hollow Scavenger. Really dislike 1 toughness creatures unless they're giving us value when they die like Monstrosity does because of the cards in this format like Flick a Coin and Rat Out that exist for clearing out 1 toughness cards. They gotta be like really good 1 toughness cards like Monstrosity or Ratcatcher Trainee to catch my eye, so... Maybe I should have just drafted a bunch of the 2-mana 2/3s and just use that. But I guess we could also just be slow, just use Evolving Wilds and Crystal Grotto and just set up the early game. During the early game, I should say. Hollow Scavenger does help with us not having 1 and 2 mana plays, because then we get to just make a food token during those turns, get that mana investment out of the way, which is nice. Okay, at this point, could do a Bowls of Porridge to use our early mana, but I think at this point we just take a Scarecrow Guide, even if it is going to get absolutely domed by Rat Out. And there's Rat Out, speak of the devil, but I'm going to take a 2-drop over it, get a 1/3 blocker early, also potentially ramp into Gruff Triplets and stuff, which could be good. I'm not going to play any of this. Not going to play any of this. Let's rare draft. Not going to play any of this. Guess I could play Leaping Ambush with the double Season of Growth, but I don't have much room for non-creatures at this point. We have so many of them. Alright, another Toadstool Admirer. If I want 1-drops in the deck so bad that I want to play Toadstool Admirers. Not sure that that's going to be the case, but we'll see. So we have 47 cards. Let's sort out our non-creature cards. We get to cut 7 cards out of here. 18 creatures. I can cut a few, but I don't want to cut a ton. So maybe just the Admirers. Yeah, I think that'd be fine. Cut the 2 Admirers and then cut mostly non-creatures. So with double Season of Growth, we keep all of our best cards that target creatures and try to have almost all of our non-land cards target creatures. Or non-creature cards target creatures. So Curse targets, and it's great. Royal Treatment targets, and it's great. 5 cuts to go. What doesn't target? Candy Trail doesn't target. We can just drop that. Hopeless Nightmare doesn't target, but I do like it for bargain, but we're doing decent on bargain because of food tokens, because of monster rolls, a couple other rolls, so we could cut the Hopeless Nightmare. We'll go to like 1 Titanic Growth, Leaping Ambush, maybe 1 Not Dead After All, and still play the Bloodline. Bloodline's expensive to bring back, though. I'd rather just go... I guess I could cut 1 Not Dead After All and still cut the Bloodline. Yeah. We'll cut the Bloodline. Now we have Not Dead After All, Leaping Ambush, and Titanic Growth for combat tricks, Royal Treatment for Hexproof, Curse of the Werefox for removal. Bunch of stuff that triggers the double Season of Growth, and that's not even counting the 2 Ferocious Werefox that also trigger it. That's pretty cute. Yeah, I guess we are a Season of Growth deck here. And yeah, we will call it a deck there. Alright, here's a look at the final deck list for today. We're on another green-black mid-range pile. Biggest weakness of this deck is a lack of removal, but other than that, it has a lot of fun things going for it. The strongest thing going for it is just the incredible bomb of Gruff Triplets, but we also have a pretty decent curve of creatures throughout the game, and some really fun, pretty unique synergy where we're playing around a double Season of Growth as some card draw engines, so every other non-creature spell in our deck can target a creature that we control to draw us an additional card, as well as a couple Ferocious Werefox to do the same, so Season of Growth card draw engines could play pretty well for us, keeping us ahead in cards throughout the game, making sure we have plenty more to keep casting, dumping on the board, and hopefully grinding out a long game, winning from there. So that is the big synergy here. It works with our removal, which is Curse the Werefox, our combat tricks like Titanic Growth, Leaping Ambush, our Hexproof trick that saves our creatures from removal of our Royal Treatment. Really just works with, again, all the non-creatures in the deck. So could be pretty spicy. Hopefully it plays well for us, but we'll find out soon enough as we head into the gameplay. Here we are on the play for game 1. It's a bit of an awkward keep because of the double black with a triple green card in hand. But turn 3 Greta, turn 4 Werefox looks pretty fine to me. And Greta can potentially draw us some extra cards as well, sacrificing some food tokens, looking for more green sources for the Gruff triplets. If we draw into Terramorphic Expanse, we'll obviously use that for another green source. So playing against red-white, one of the most aggressive and powerful archetypes in the format. Definitely lucky to be on the play for this matchup, I will say that. They're going to jam in for one with the Charming Scoundrel. And we draw a third black source, and that is definitely awkward for us with the Gruff Triplets opener. There's a Protective Parents from our opponent. Big enough to trade off into Greta and then get our opponent a Young Hero roll onto the board. Kind of want to drop Spellscorn Coven here before I play Not Dead After All and try to Not Dead After All the Spellscorn Coven. Trading into Protective Parents at a later time. That could be very, very gross. Make our opponent discard an additional card, have a 3/4 Spellscorn Coven on the board after that. And obviously we have all kinds of tricks to hold up next turn. If I have 2 creatures on board, just hold all this stuff up. Ideally hit another green source to cast both of our green tricks, but we'll see. Alright, our opponent's going full aggro there. Shut off our blockers, spend a combat trick here, and just beat down for damage. Alright, well, Scarecrow Guide helps get to the triplets. That's pretty big. It's a pretty big deal. So let's drop the Scarecrow Guide, hold up the Not Dead After All, and attack in with Greta here, I think. They give us a good block where I can go Coven onto the Parents. I will do that and Not Dead After All. If they don't, like if they do another Beat a Path or something, then I'll eat my food with Greta to draw another card, look for lands for triplets. So they're just going to play the Bellowing Bruiser, get a 4/4 out, and if they attack with only that, we'll just Titanic Growth to kill it on blocks. But they do attack with it and Protective Parents, so now I have to make the decision with how worth it is it to play Not Dead After All right now, over clearing out the Bruiser and taking much less damage. Feel like we're supposed to just clear out the Bruiser first here, lose the Guide, don't have access to triplets, but deal with their biggest threat. Yeah, this feels a lot better. Just preserve that life total, because they're already down to 2 cards in hand, so if we can deal with their biggest threats, we should be pretty far in the lead here, even if we don't manage to get triple green on triplets. And there's a second green, so maybe we'll get really lucky and just do it all. Got the mana to use Guard Change and Not Dead After All and eat a food to draw a card. Let's draw the card right now and see if that changes what I want to do. Yeah, I could draw into Minstrosity, so let's hold up double black. I'd rather Minstrosity hold up Not Dead After All than just hold up Guard Change and Not Dead After All. And this is where, again, I'm being a bit greedy here, but now we even just know that we're playing Gruff Triplets next turn, so I think a little greed is fine. A little defensiveness. In a vacuum, we should probably be attacking with both of our creatures there. But I like being nice and turtled up with the Not Dead After All as well, to just make sure we're making it to triplets and winning off that for sure. Alright, cool, so they just don't have good attacks. Now we've got the triplets mana, we offer the trade with Greta if they take it. Say okay. Honestly, we send in Coven 2 at this point, because we're going to have 3/3/3s on blocks. They're going to attack with a 3/3 and a 2/2 on board. There's the triplets. Doesn't feel really necessary for winning this game, but it absolutely cannot hurt, so just do some gross stuff here. I'll save the token version, actually, for bargain, potentially. Plus they're just dead next turn anyway, so it's an argument for keeping the non-token for not dead after all. I think either way's fine. I guess since we don't have any bargain in our hand, I don't actually know if we have any bargain in our deck. Yeah, no, we're supposed to just keep the non-token version for not dead after all. Again, really doesn't matter there. I don't even think we needed the triplets in the first place to be in the lead in that game after establishing some solid blocks with our combat tricks up, but yeah, I could have played that tighter and just kept the non-token version. But red and white aren't going to have anything to kill a 9/9 that doesn't involve exiling it. I guess there's Kellen's Light Blades is a card they could use that would just destroy it if they bargain off that card. But that is something to keep in mind here. I don't actually remember any bargain in this deck. I'm checking the deck list again real quick. Yeah, we have 0 bargain cards, so let's keep that in mind. Don't need to do any of that. I'm gonna drop the Fawn here. We'll play the tap land next turn, and thanks to the Fawn for its fixing, I can still play Minstrosity next turn, which I likely want to do because our opponent looks pretty aggressive here on red-black. Guess I could play my Scavenger, but I'd much rather trade off a Minstrosity than a Scavenger. Although they can't attack into the Scavenger with Spear Guard without another trick, but they can definitely attack into Minstrosity with it. Yeah, let's actually still play the Scavenger for that reason. Forces them to have something else to buff up the Spear Guard to get in with that one. And if the Skewer Slinger gets in, that's fine. We just take 1 damage total for the turn. Alright, so there's the Torch the Tower. Take 2, down to 17. Still looking pretty fine here. We can Coven them now and have a 2/3 up on blocks, put them down to 3 cards in hand. Two 3's big enough to block either of their current attackers. They discard a Scream Puff. Let's see the combat trick here. Gnawing Crescendo, buff the whole board, get another rat, that's fine. They have 3 1/1s on board. Well, 3 1-power creatures on board, I should say. This is a little awkward here. Season of Growth and then block plus guard change. Plays really bad against another copy of Torch the Tower. Probably just Season of Growth, drop Minstrosity, Scry. Not that Minstrosity blocks super well. Alright, cool. We find a land, which is beautiful. Now we're only 1 land away from Gruff Triplets if the Root Rider Fawn sticks around. I'll take 3, down to 11. Now I have a much safer place to try to cast Guard Change. Not safer in that Minstrosity's any harder to kill. It's actually easier to kill than Root Rider Fawn, but we really need to keep Root Rider Fawn, and if Minstrosity dies, it's not that big of a deal. So, sure, Guard Change can get annihilated by them rat-outing our Minstrosity, or flick-a-coining it or something, but at least then we know we get to just keep the Fawn. And they're tapped out anyway, so I guess we get to guard change anywhere now. So I should probably do it during my turn to guarantee the draw 2. Yep, let's play around removal here, get our draw 2. Guarantee the land for triplets. Find the land for triplets, pass the turn. And we want to block in a way to keep Root Rider Fawn safe no matter what. Monstrosity's Trade is the play, I think. Take 1 extra damage just to keep Root Rider Fawn safe. There's Scream Puff. Big bada boom. Gruff Triplets has arrived and we get to scry 6, I guess? So I guess I just scry till I see something really good. These are all reasonable cards, honestly. There we go, there's something really good. Scry 6 is kind of crazy. We're probably just playing Werefox and Curse of the Werefox next turn, which is a very flavorful turn. But having a Vanguard for the future is nice. Alright. Lose 2 of our triplets here. Just have a single 9/9 left. Honestly, with double Season of Growth Curse of the Werefox, just to stay safe, I think we do that. Keep the non-token for if we hit a not dead after all. Alright, Shatter the Oath, that's fine. Because they're still down to like very few creatures. Could Curse of the Werefox, but there's nothing to actually kill now, so we just play the 6/7. So they can't get through that either, and we scry 2. That to the bottom. That also to the bottom. Back for seconds. That is very good here. Pick up a couple Scream Puffs to try to grind out the long game. Outgrind the double Season of Growth would be impressive. Alright, let's see if they've got big enough removal here for this. They might have a Candy Grapple, they can sack the rat and then win this fight. Looks like a no. Now I've got another Werefox for another draw 2 and a Horseman to pick up the Gruff Triplets. So we'll do that. We'll hold up a guard change and we'll just pick up the other Gruff Triplets. I hold up the mana to eat a food or cast a guard change, depending on what would happen. Alright, there's the concession. Fell Horseman, pretty average, pretty mediocre card, pretty slow. Find a graveyard recursion, but if you draw it with the Gruff Triplets in the graveyard, it is kind of nasty. We are now 2-0 off the back of Gruff Triplets, although I don't think Gruff Triplets again was necessary for our first win. I think it was really important in the second one though, because even through the Gruff Triplets, they cleared almost all our whole board, so I think the Gruff Triplets was definitely necessary in the second game, or we would have been in a much worse place. Here we are now for game 3. Double Monstrosity into Titanic Growth on one of them with a Season of Growth on board. Look at the flavor right there. Season of Titanic Growth. It's perfect. Yeah, turn 4, cast Season of Growth and Titanic Growth in the same turn. That's going to be the play. And now I have the perfect mana to make a food token and still play a Monstrosity, which is also cool. Thank you, Hollow Scavenger. Very cool. Voracious Vermin. Season of Growth, holding up Titanic Growth to save a Monstrosity. Save a Monstrosity and draw a card. Could also just hit our opponent for 7. When the combat tricks get that big, it is really tempting to just hit their face. Got the mana to play the Scavenger and blow up one of their artifacts or enchantments, so fingers crossed they play a great artifact or enchantment this turn. Twin Veil Guide, that is neither. But it is a 3 toughness card, so our Monstrosity's still attacking very well. Put them down to 8s. They're probably trying to celebrate and get some life gain off that. At 8 life here, I could Butcher to make a wide board state, but I think I'm cool to Scavenger. That's just the better upfront creature. Find a Vermin. I think I'm just trying to scry into land 6, honestly, with a Stormkeld Vanguard in hand. I think Scavenger out first into giving our board Menace is the more likely way to try to find 2-turn lethal. Because then they can't block anybody. They go to 11. We have exact lethal on the board if they don't play any more creatures or removal here. But they could have a Cooped Up to play during their turn, or a Kellen's Lightblades to play when we try to attack into them. They attack with this rat, they might be trying to Lightblades the Scavenger. Which I think it's fine to make this block, because then it makes it so I don't try to like attack with everybody and kill them next turn with the Menace. And then just get got by the Lightblades. This lets us see if they have it like early here. That looks like a no. They're just going to buff Vermin. And now we just know they don't have Kellen's Lightblades because they would have used it, bargained the rat that was going to die anyway to kill the Scavenger. So now we know we can attempt the lethal, and it's pretty likely to just happen. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, yep. Give everybody Menace. Scry 1, find the land number 6 for Triplets or Vanguard. Send in the team, they can't block, eat the food. That's 11 damage. Alright, we are now 3-0 heading into game number 4. First game that we won without casting Rough Triplets, but it did still show up in the hand. It had to cheer along from the sidelines there. Alright, here we are on the play for game 4. We got that turn 2 Monstrosity. Card has been very important. Happy with my choices to take it very highly with the lack of 2-drops that we've had. Hopeful Vigil from our opponents, which we can't get through. We can trade into it, but I can't put 2 rolls onto the same creature, so I can't make Monstrosity bigger than a 4/2. Top decking Vermin here makes me feel like just Vermin and then attack is pretty reasonable. Because then in trading we're also buffing our Voracious Vermin. Alright. Looks pretty chill to me. They have a Celebrant to go with our Hopeful Vigil. Nope. Discerning Financier. Joke's on you, I missed land drop 4, so I can't give you treasures even if I wanted to. Alright, I can Butcher, sack the rat to scry 2, draw a card looking for treasure. Or looking for treasure, looking for lands. which with Gruff Triplets in hand I probably should do even if they have Financier on board. But I can also just attack in first, holding up my tricks, and then do that post-combat, so sure. If I can kill Financier before I hit my next land, I will happily do that. Alright, they're not going to give me the opportunity yet. Yeah, so it's not going to draw them extra cards, really, because they have to sink a bunch of mana into that, but it is going to give them some treasure tokens. Little bit of a bummer. Think I get rid of Season here because I need lands that badly, even with Werefox and Treatment in my hand, as spicy as that could be. Alright, Financier, get your treasure. Moment of Valor, my vermin. Sadness on the stack. Miss a land drop again. Again, probably not the worst in the world to just miss a land drop here, because at least we don't give them another treasure. Putting a Light Blades here. Go for the block. Then we go for the trample, and we have the royal treatment if they try to do another trick. So we get them either way. Unless they buff their own Financier, we can't stop that. Yep, Light Blades. We win this interaction by quite a bit. Awesome. The only way that could have went better is if I had another land in my hand instead of this Greta that I top decked. Then it would have been a beautiful turn. Get the Financier out of the way before we play land 5. But still just getting the Financier out of here even without land 5 was nice. There is the Stockpiling Celebrant to go with the Hopeful Vigil, which is a disgusting combo. Excellent, excellent 2-card combo with all commons too. There's Ambush. We are a deck that's absolutely chock full of combat tricks, aren't we? Drop a Greta. It's the only way I hold up Ambush here, which feels exciting to me. Okay, well, Ambush can't stop that. Can kill a Celebrant for 1 mana. Goodbye, Stockpiling Celebrant. Alright, 1 mana away from Gruff Triplets to super win the game. Again, without triplets, I think we're already in the lead between Butcher, Werefox, and Scavenger here against just Guard, Hopeful Vigil. But it depends on what they scry into off the Hopeful Vigil, really. Drop the 5-4, the 4-3 Trample. When you put it that way, it sounds like you drop the 5-4. Because we have 3 food tokens, so this really is essentially a 5-4. Sadness. Sadness resolves. Oops, I did it again. This game is not fair. Magic the Gathering. A game of pure skill. We've Gruff Triplets again. 4/4 flyer is a little annoying, but it only matters once for these triplets. They get to kill one triplet for free, but then the others are 6/6s, which get past the Griffin. It might not be worth attacking with 2, because then they can kill one of them with the 4/4 and the other by double blocking with 2/2/2s. So I trade 2 of my triplets into a 4/4 and a single 2/2. So I actually feel like I attack with 1 triplet. And again, it just makes the other 6/6s so that they get to attack in for the rest of the game. I guess only one of them gets to attack in. One of them is going to get tapped down by the Frostbridge Guard. Cheeky House Mouse. 2/1 body. Big enough to triple block a 6/6 or slap alongside the 4/4 into trading into the 6/6. Spell, Scorn, Coven. Probably pretty greedy to just hold on to this. Alright, the mouse and the griffin trade into the 6/6. The 4/3 hits for 4. Yeah, what are the odds that they cast a spell at this point that costs more than 3 mana? Unlikely. I guess they could vigil in their... I'm actually going to hold on to this, because if they vigil in their upkeep to scry and then they draw into something, we get to coven it back. But they just hit a land, so they didn't even try to do the upkeep scry. The greed does not pay off. If we had just played this, we would probably have lethal, because now they can tap this down, stop 2 damage with the knight, take 1, 2, 2, 4, 5, 6. Oh, we still have lethal. Okay, never mind. So they're dead with or without Coven. They tap triplets and stop 2 points of damage and take exactly 6 from all of our other creatures. Cool. I guess it was fine to hold this up then, because the only way we don't lethal them is if they hit something good, and if they hit something good and it's 4 mana or more, then Coven gets them with the take it back off of Root Rider Fawn's fixing. And if they scry with Hopeful Vigil in the upkeep, then they really can't afford whatever it is. Plus, the thing that I wasn't considering that's really important that makes Take It Back actually pretty good here is the fact that they have to make sure they keep 3 mana up to tap down the triplets. So even if it is a spell that costs only 3 mana, soaking up that 3 mana, making them spend it again, means they don't get to tap triplets. Alright, they concede. They have read the lethal on the board now. That is going to be game over. We are now 4-0 heading into game 5. Here we are on the play for game 5. We never don't draw the triplets, do we? Curse the Werefox actually looks a bit awkward in this hand. For now. Oh, Spreading Seas is actually pretty annoying because of Gruff triplets in the hand. We're not going to let them know that, though. Just going to play another forest and pretend nothing happened. Everything is fine. Feed the Cauldron my scavenger. Sad day. Goodbye, 5/4. Oh, alright. Well, Root Rider Fawn plus Scarecrow Guide means we are good. That's triple green if they don't kill the Guide or the Fawn. And play the Fawn first since it's harder to kill. If I just drop the Guide down, they could rat it out. Plus the Fawn gives us mana for anything, not just triplets. They probably have that bargain counterspell that they really want to cast here. I'm probably still supposed to just jam out a Scream Puff, though. Because what are they going to do? Counter a Scarecrow Guide to draw 3 off Hatching Plans? And if they don't have the counterspell here, Scream Puff is significantly better than Scarecrow Guide, and even if they do, it makes sure that they won't have the counterspell for Gruff Triplets. Unless they draw into another. Yep. As imagined. One of my big concerns here is, like, if I just play Scarecrow Guide here, and they just let it resolve, like, there are so many ways to bargain in blue that this Hatching Plan is going to pop off regardless. They just get to play the 2-mana bounce and on-land permanent draw a card bargain during their turn anyway. So let's just get that out of the way so that if they haven't drawn into another counterspell, the Triplets resolves and just wins here. Oh, thank God they didn't kill the Fawn. Alright, top deck, here's the turn. There we go. Ooh-doo-doo. Triplets has arrived. Gumdrop Poisoner's a gross card. 3/2 lifelink or kill a creature. Stab Wound on the main Triplets. Sure. I guess I'd try to Curse of the Werefox, the main one, into the Poisoner. That would be a trade. And then the other ones would get +2/+2. And then I wouldn't be dealing with Stab Wound. Okay, yeah, that's gross. That's super gross. Could you imagine if I had the Not Dead After All also to play alongside that? That would have been incredibly silly. Let's actually play Scarecrow Guide into triple blue. No counterspell. Immediate pass? Yeah, that's true. I should have just played Greta because they already didn't counter Curse the Werefox. If they had a counter, they certainly would have countered that. Doesn't matter much here. Scarecrow Guide only hits for 1 less damage. Like, if I'm going to use Greta to put +1/+1 counters on the board, I can put them on non-Greta creatures anyway. So, I only miss out on 1 point of damage by playing Guide instead. Not a massive deal here. There's a Sweet Tooth Witch. I could use their blue source for our Take It Back, which is hilarious. Alright, they just insta-concede. Meaning that they did not have any instance up, and they did not want to wait for me to try to figure out what the safest line was there. So we are 5-0 heading into game number 6. This is where we would be in the money in Premier Draft, but in Quick Draft, still need to get a 6th win to actually be guaranteed up in gyms. And here we are for game 6. What have we got? Decent hand here. Root Rider Fawn into Butcher into Coven. It's a pretty good curve. I could even just play the Coven turn 3 if I want. Could be a little greedy and try to get the full value. Adventure plus Coven here. Like I go Root Rider Fawn, and then turn 3 Take It Back, turn 4 play the Coven. How greedy do I want to be? If I want to be really greedy, I could discard a land, trying to keep Not Dead After All to use on Coven. But I should probably just discard Not Dead After All. Or Butcher, maybe, if I do want to do Take It Back and then Coven. I'm just going to drop Butcher. Dang it. Should have been greedy. Immediately hit the land. Oh, good God, I really should have been greedy. I'm going to hit a Crystal Grotto as well. Find a Season of Growth. Just a Not Dead After All, I don't think. That's super impressive. All right, no candy grapple from our opponent. We're happy to see that. There's a Mocking Sprite to start things off. And I'm going to be a doofus here, and I'm going to try to just do the full value, take it back into Coven. Because it just sounds fun to me. Well, now they have the double blue counterspell up because the Mocking Sprite makes it cheaper. Alright, get punished. We just lose the game now, I think. Actually got really heavily punished for all of our choices here. The mulligan choice too, did keeping the land and then drawing 3 more. Also just massive punishment. Yeah, seeing all the blue mana from our opponent, I think we should have just jammed out Coven main phase. Why did they bargain? This Mocking Sprite makes it just cost double blue anyway. Oh, I guess it gives them the Scry for free. They could have kept their bargain for something else if they wanted. And punished for not keeping Season of Growth. Alright. Well, we didn't play this game out very well, but we also got incredibly punished for our choices of lines that weren't even incorrect, like the ditching a land on the mulligan. Certainly not like objectively incorrect or anything. That's one of those 50-50 kind of things that just pan out as poorly as possible. The one thing we really did wrong... Ooh, our opponent's playing wrong too. The one thing we really did wrong was the take it back for the Coven. Should have jammed out a Coven earlier. Could poke them for 1. Don't see a massive point in that. Top deck Scream Puff, we top deck land. Top deck Prankster, which draws another card, which is Spell Stutter. Oh, it's actually Barrow Naughty as well. Did not see that. Cool, the 2-for-1 top deck. There's a Greta, which is something, but I'm already just dead in the sky. If Greta doesn't find something immediately. And we can see exactly what Greta's gonna find because she scries here. A land. Not cool. What about the next card? I guess I could just eat the food to gain 3, but then I'm definitely dying in 2 turns anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess they only have 5 damage on board if they don't play another swamp. But yeah, I mean, they just attack with all these flyers twice. I don't think there are really any outs here, whether or not we sack the food at this point. Yeah, I mean, just not resolving Coven completely cost us this game. Coven changes things so significantly. The only removal they played all game was Candy Grapple, and we had Titanic Growth by the time they did that. Alright. One pivotal misplay, and we are completely crushed. Oh, of course, they hit the black source now. Great. So now we have to sack the food. That perfectly timed swamp in the end, and terribly timed swamp on our end. Alright. So, I still think the mulligan decision, you certainly can't just say that's just 100% a misplay. That's just a variance kind of play. where it's a 50-50 whether the greed pans out or not. We could just as easily have like dumped the land on bottom and then played way off curve for keeping a 2-lander there. Because there's always the risk as well of keeping the 2-lander with the fawn and then your opponent just has the candy grapple in their opener instead of drawn later like they did here. And then they just grapple the fawn while we're stuck on 2 lands and we firmly lose that game if we don't hit more land drops. So stand by the keep there. I think it was fine either way, keeping the land or ditching the land. I don't think that was objectively wrong at all, but it clearly panned out really badly. And now, or that wasn't a mulligan decision, that was a discard a card decision. They made us discard one. We chose to discard the Butcher over discarding a land. So, anyways, the Coven play was terrible. We were playing against a blue deck there. The odds of them having a counterspell for when we try to do the take it back, if we wait until they're untapped, are somewhat low, because they'd have to play a really cheap card and also hold up the mana for it. The thing that made it really, really bad, though, is the fact that, like, against blue-black, they're always going to hold up a counterspell if they have it. So we have to just jam this thing out when they're tapped out at the first opportunity as the 2/3 flying body. I think that's where I really misplayed there. Wasn't thinking about the matchup, was just thinking about, like, extra potential value from using the adventure. But in this matchup against blue-black, once they've got that 5-6 mana that they were getting to at the time, they're just going to start playing 4 drops and holding up 2 mana counter spells, and we're never going to resolve the Coven without getting it out while they're tapped out. And obviously it played out that way. It got countered, and then we had nothing to slow down the Flyers. Had we resolved the Coven, I don't know if we would have won, because we did flood out really hard, but we would have had at least 1 or 2 additional draw steps to potentially get out of our position. That would have been really nice. So that's all it takes sometimes. Just one pivotal line can change the course of a game. Even if you've got decent reasoning behind it in your head, just like, oh, I could get so much more value if I do the adventure first and then play this. Like, there's always that downside. What if the blue deck's running the counters, as they tend to do? Alright, this opener's terrible, because Horseman's not even good unless you already have creatures in grave, so it's not something I want to play till like turn 6, turn 7. And Combat Tricks with no creatures till turn 4 is also really bad, so kind of a forced mulligan into the exact same hand. You love to see it. I guess we gotta keep it this time. It's literally Horseman and 2 Combat Tricks again. Alright, turn 1 Evolving Wilds for a green source, because we have a triple green bomb in our deck. We're keeping it this time because we really just can't afford to mulligan to 5 on the play 2, where we don't draw on the first turn. Playing against a red deck, here comes the removal for Monstrosity. Torch the tower would be gross because it would exile it as well. Hopefully they just have a flick a coin, and I can make sure I have a trick up when they try to flick a coin at the Monstrosity. That's 3 mana to do 1 damage to it. Alright. Well, more tricks to go with the Monstrosity. Protect it. They go land, flick a coin, we really get them with the guard change. Miss our 4th land, so we can't just jam out a creature here. Hey. Alright, we don't actually, like, get them. Because they still draw a card and get a treasure. But it does play out significantly better for us than if the Monstrosity died there. They are a green-red deck. They have found their green source, and they've got a treasure token. So 5 mana available, double green if they need it. Hollow Scavenger's the play with no food, so just a 3/2. Sure. I'll trade into that all day. Save my not dead after all for our Spellscorn Coven. Good Titanic Growth here, just jam out damage, but I have so many more creatures to cast right now. I've got 3 4-drop creatures, so I'm just going to start doing these. Especially because Coven can really rip out a lot of cards from their hand. Get rid of a Witch's Mark. Definitely some really different lines we could be going for here, but against the green deck, because they have such great ways to potentially stabilize, like Hamlet Gluttons, as they have just cast here, I like trying to go for the grindier lines that rip out their hand than just trying to go for just pressuring damage with like Titanic Growth and the Monstrosity there. Because I think it's likely they have the Glutton-style cards to stabilize. And they did, so it played out pretty solid to be trying to grind things out here. Now, I don't like having to try to combat trick on blocks, but I think that's really our only bet against a Hamlet Glutton. If they blow up my Coven in response to Titanic Growth, I can still not dead after all it, at least. It's not the complete end of the world, but obviously it's not good for me. It's not great for me, I should say. It's fine. There's the black source for potential Candy Grapple. Infinite things could go wrong here. But I've got the not dead after all, and I really don't think I can just take 6. Five damage? Well, a leaping ambush on that one then. Then this is a trade. We also not dead after all to get rid of another card from them. Alright, I spent a lot of cards there, but I think all in all it was worth it. They're down to 2 cards in hand now. We still have a 3/4 and they do not have a creature on board. Beautiful, they don't even play anything, so let's just hit for 3 and drop the 4/3 trample then. Corvold and the Noble Thief get some treasures and eventually cast stuff out of our library, but does not impact the board much early. So we can keep trying to just jam in for damage here before they draw extra cards. I think they even have to just trade Galefang off with Werefox immediately, otherwise they're taking 7 going to 4 against a Coven in this guy with a Wicked roll on it. Feels like a forced trade to me. Yep, they do take the trade. Now, actually think, since I already have 1 food, that I just cast the Scavenger and be really mana efficient and aggressive here, picking up the Werefox with Horseman. So that we have a chance of just killing them this turn. And not having to worry about them drawing cards out of our deck. Well, if I hit Stormkeld Vanguard, I also don't worry about them drawing cards out of our deck. Okay, so we attack them with everybody. They have to block Scavenger to not die on board. We kill the Ranger, and then we just blow up their enchantment. And even if I sack this, I trample over for 4 damage, so I put them to 1. They're not dead if I sack the food right now, so I'm just going to keep that food for later when I might need it, and just blow up the Saga. But I might need this food to like save Scavenger from a Torch the Tower or something weird, or win a future combat. Alright. That was probably like the exact opposite of the game right before, where I made some sketchy lines that could have gone wrong, but we got super paid off by the cards that they had in hand there for holding up and trying to get the Titanic Growth block there with all our tricks. So just the variance of life, the variance of Magic. Sometimes you get got, sometimes you do the gotten. That makes no sense, but you know how it is. Here we are in round number 8, 6-1, 1 win away from a 7-win run, getting some extra gems out of this event no matter what. So definite keep, we've got turn 2 Monstrosity. Could also play Forest, get a food off of Scavenger, go Crystal Grotto, Root Rider Fawn, and then Scavenger turn 3. But I do like jamming out Monstrosities. Against a red-white here, they could have like flick a coin to kill a Monstrosity and draw a card, that'd be gross. For Root Rider Fawn, they could have Torch the Tower, but they need to wait till they can bargain something away. I think I actually want to Root Rider Fawn. This also means I have 4 mana to play around with next turn, which is big. I could just make the food and the Scavenger in the same turn. Ooh, miss a land drop here. Alright, so let's Crystal Grotto. Find a Scarecrow Guide. Not very exciting to me. Let's get our food and our 3-2. Pass from there. And that could die to a Torch the Tower, but they just have an Armory Mice. If I want to Curse of the Werefox, I have to sack my food too, so I'm just going to attack the Scavenger. They don't block because they know I can sack the food to win the fight. And then we get to play Scream Puff. What I was talking about when I drafted Scavenger, where that threat of activation comes in so well, where I get to hit them for 3 without spending any mana because they know I could spend the mana to kill the mice. So that means I'm getting damage in where I wouldn't have otherwise, and playing a Scream Puff, which is awesome. All right. Already head on board. I don't think I need to use removal on the mice. I can just let the Scavenger trade here and not dead after all. Keep this Curse of the Werefox in case something really scary happens. I'm gonna be pretty greedy with the Horseman, especially since Monstrosity hits them just as hard as the Horseman does. It's also 3 power, even if it is just a lot less toughness. There's Return Triumphant. Get an Armory Mice. And a Young Hero roll, but that's their only blocker. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. They're super dead to Curse of the Werefox. They were just stuck on 2 lands all game. Not much else to say here. Sort of a free victory for the final battle. But we take those. It is going to be a 7-1 run. An excellent quick draft for today. Got to do some pretty fun Season of Growth things early in the gameplay in the first few games of the draft. And then kind of did nothing with the Season of Growths for the next half. So I'm still not very high on the card. Because drawn at the wrong time, it's quite awkward. It was a very bad top deck in a couple of these later games. But I mean, when we had them early in the first few games of the draft, it was kind of sweet. So it was nice to see both aspects of Season of Growth, the positives and the negatives, where you have to draw it early before you draw the combat tricks. If you draw it off the top later as your top deck, it's pretty terrible. And we saw both halves of that card. We saw it giving us a ton of card draw throughout the game, and we saw us drawing it late game. So that was the most interesting thing going on in the deck, and it was pretty much just that, interesting. I don't think it was great. I don't think it was horrible. It was interesting. It was unique. It was fun to play around with for a draft, I think, but not something that I think is consistent enough to try to be doing all that often unless you just want to have some fun with the Season of Growth. Because again, it's always going to be a terrible top deck late game, even if you have the perfect Season of Growth deck. And so it can really ruin your day if you're in a top deck war and you just draw into a Season of Growth. It could be quite bad there, but overall, deck played super well. Drawing a bunch of Gruff triplets for the victories in like the first 3 matches was obviously insane. That was just Gruff triplets winning those, but pretty sure all of our last like 3 or 4 wins were mainly not Gruff triplets related. Maybe one of them still was, but a lot of wins with just curving out with beefy Scavengers, Monstrosities, and Werefoxes and stuff. That was quite nice. The one loss, again, played against a blue deck, didn't try to resolve my best spell while they were tapped out. Generally not a good idea, pretty loose gameplay there. I just wasn't thinking about the matchup, so I think even our loss today might have been a victory with some good draws in a couple more draw steps that we would have had by having a Spellscorn Coven on board. So maybe entirely user error today, keeping us from the 7-0, but a very good record regardless. We'll grab our 950 gems, our 2 extra packs, and that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.